Hi, and welcome back to another tip for the day. Today I'm going to continue talking about powering scaled items, specifically the biodomes that you can see behind me. Let's start by looking at what we can do with biodomes at different scales. Starting with the smallest quarter-sized dome, I have been able to snap a plant in there, and I've been able to connect a power lead to it. You can see I've put a power lead from one power point to the next one. The next size up is a half dome, and we can do exactly the same. We can snap plants in and we can wire them, as we can with the 3/4 and of course the 1. And we can also do the same with the 1 1/4. Here above them I have the largest scales. Starting with the 1 1/2. I am no longer able to connect anything to the power points, but I can still position a plant in there. And of course, not being able to use the power point means we wouldn't be able to use this with our rescaling method. We wouldn't be able to mark a point on this part. So that's unlike the parts we've looked at previously, where we could power them at higher scales. This is presumably because biodomes are so big. We can still snap a plant into the 1 3/4 size, but that's as much as we can do. For everything double and higher, we can't snap plants and we can't connect wires. Now we can also snap corridors or doors to all of this bottom row, and we can also snap it to the first two on this row. So the snap points are the same as plants for these parts. We can snap them right up to 1 3/4, but nothing double or beyond. Practically, for our powering technique, what this means is that if we want to power anything above 1 1/4 size, we're going to have to use combinations of these parts along the bottom row from 1/4 to 1 1/4. We're not going to be able to make a double-sized dome or a 1 3/4 sized dome and then add to it. So we're not going to be able to make a 2 3/4 sized dome, for an example, by adding a single dome to a 1 3/4 dome, simply because there's nothing to wire glitch to. But there are still practical examples for everything. For instance, if we wanted to build a 1 1/2, then we could build a half and then snap a single one onto it, making up 1 1/2. A 1 3/4 dome being a 3/4 dome with a single one snapped onto it. And once we get up to 2 1/2 size domes, then we would have to use one of the other ones along the bottom and then snap 2 single ones to it. Right up to the 3 times 1, obviously being just 3 single domes. Now that's obviously the easiest example of a large dome, so let's start with that one, because there are some other stumbling blocks when it comes to building large domes. A biodome's power points are at 45-degree angles, and if you remember, our technique relied on the power point pointing directly towards us when we went to build it, so we need to adapt our technique. Just as in our previous video, I'm going to start with a staggered floor, a normal floor and an upside down floor. The upside down floor I would have glitched onto the bottom of the normal floor. This allows us to mark where the building level is for snappable parts. We're going to position an ordinary biodome, so we can use an ordinary wire and drag that across to the middle point. I'm deliberately not being very specific with my wire point. I'm just going to get it roughly in the line. It's not actually going to be exact at all. Theoretically, if we're starting with a single biodome, we could snap that one and then mark it with an upside down part in order to then glitch onto for later. Now, instead of glitching another one onto it, I'm going to wire glitch one of our short walls onto this power point. Now, the reason I'm using a short wall immediately is because of this angle of the power point. it's 45 degrees off, so I want all of my biodomes in that 45-degree line, so they come out over here somewhere. Just as before, we'll end up with 3 different parts all glitched onto each other in a line. So I'm going to snap a second wall at a 90-degree angle, but wire glitch and connect back to my point. And then we can delete that first one, copy a biodome, and then glitch it onto the angled point. I'm just rotating it there. And now we have a second biodome at 45 degrees. So we want to do the whole thing again. Grab a short wall, glitch it on, wire glitch one at 90 degrees, connect it, copy a biodome, glitch it on. So now we have 3 biodomes, all staggered and all in line with each other. The idea being, just as before, that the power point of the large 3-size one will be in the same position as this power point here. So let's mark that power point so that we can glitch a power point in later, and then we can delete the biodomes. Next, we're going to take a biodome, place it in the cache for a universal adjacency glitch, and copy the 3 times wire and drag it to the middle of our floor. Again, I'm not being very precise. I would recommend positioning the camera directly above so that you can exactly position it in the middle, but I'm deliberately making it quite vague here to see what the tolerances are. So now we have our maximum size biodome. We can copy our short wall and glitch a new wire point. And you can see it's slightly off. It isn't as precise as the previous video. And let's connect it to a power point. And everything seems to be powered as normal. So there are a few tolerances there if you're not too precise. It isn't a really super precise manual technique. Let's do the same with a 2.5. So again, I put a biodome into my cache. And because I've got to stick to the smaller ones, we'll grab the half and then we'll drag the wire. Naturally, this is going to be a bit more precise because it's a much, much smaller wire. So there we have a half-size biodome, and we're going to use exactly the same technique. Position a short wall, wire glitching it onto the power point, a 90-degree angle wire glitched, create that 45-degree angle, which we can then glitch another biodome onto. So obviously that will come out as a normal size one, so that would be 1.5. So let's do that again for the 2.5. Leaving us with 2 full-size biodomes, and tucked in there somewhere a half-size biodome. So this will be our power point, which again we will mark. Then we can delete the biodomes, place another one into the cache, and select the 2.5. Manually position that one as before. And again, glitch a wire in. and drag it to our PowerPoint. And there we have a fully powered 2.5 biodome. So how do we get into these larger biodomes? Well, we can use cuboid rooms. They snap underneath. And then we can put a door on that and position a ladder inside. And although it doesn't actually open a hole, we can climb through into the biodome. I sometimes like to use cuboid frames and then glitch a infrastructure ladder. So I use an universal adjacency glitch and select the infrastructure ladder, put that in the cache, and then glitch it just underneath. And again, we can climb through that way. Another option are the glass tubes, which are technically just another way of positioning a ladder. So we can put a cuboid room underneath. Again, put a door on it. And then just position ladders inside. And again, we can climb through. So there you go, powering biodomes of various sizes, and some tips and tricks on how to use them, what can snap to them, etc. And next I will be looking at the mining parts. But until then, travel well, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.